Just amping his low-level cursed spirits with his cursed energy, he was able to make them strong enough to decimate Chozo. Hey, what's up everybody? It's LeeLos, and today we're talking about why Toji versus Kenjaku is obvious. Stay steady in pursuit of your dreams and goals. You're born to win, you're made for greatness, and I definitely believe in you guys. Keep up the great work each and every day. So Kenjaku versus Toji is a battle between one of the most popular characters in the entire series versus one of the most experienced Jujutsu sorcerers in the entire series. Today we're going to analyze every single power-up and ability these characters have displayed to figure out overall who's stronger than who between these two characters. Two of the most powerful cursed tools Toji displayed for defeating sorcerers are the Soul Split Katana and the Inverted Spear of Heaven. The Soul Split Katana negates durability and does soul damage directly, and the Inverted Spear of Heaven is a cursed tool that negates cursed techniques. There is a debate over how powerful the Inverted Spear of Heaven actually is. Some argue that it only cuts through cursed techniques, and others argue that it turns off any technique that it makes contact with in general. The interpretation of just cutting through cursed techniques is largely inspired from the anime scene in which Toji blocks Gojo's red using the Inverted Spear of Heaven. Gojo's red doesn't vanish immediately when making contact with the cursed tool. Instead, it sends Toji flying. Meanwhile, in the manga, this scene is depicted slightly differently. We don't see him block red with the cursed tool at all. He might have been hit by the attack directly and survived it as a durability feat. Furthermore, in the manga, Toji does state that he could use the Inverted Spear of Heaven as a shield against Gojo's technique. You could argue that means he would erase the technique, thus it shields him as a result, or you could argue it's just a literal definition that he actually could hold it up as a shield and block the cursed techniques with it. The debate is still ongoing, so let me know what you guys think is the more accurate interpretation in the comments. Do you think the Inverted Spear of Heaven cuts through cursed techniques, or it turns cursed techniques off in general anytime they make contact with the blade? The manga does also state that it nullifies cursed techniques. It's even stated to be able to cut through the back gate of the prison realm, similar to Jacob's Ladder. First, I'll scale Toji using the interpretation that this tool turns off cursed techniques, and at the end of the video, I'll talk about what if it just cuts through cursed techniques to see if anything changes. Having a sword that can one-shot nearly anyone in the verse, and a cursed tool that nullifies cursed techniques on top of the insane physicals of its heavenly restriction makes Toji a tough opponent for many characters in Jujutsu Kaisen. There's more Toji scaling to explain, such as the different interpretations on his speed and strength, but first, let's see how does he compare to the skill set and power of Kenjaku. Kenjaku is a character who's lived through 1,000 years of sorcery. His overall skill with Jujutsu sorcery is genuinely insane, and he's been crafting up crazy plans for hundreds of years. Tengen states that Kenjaku's skill is so insane that he's one of the few who can match him in barrier techniques, with some translations straight up saying he's equal to Tengen in barrier techniques. His skill with barrier techniques is very important and implied multiple times throughout the story. Kenjaku displayed an open barrier domain just like Sukuna. This was so insane that it surprised even Tengen himself. And again, his skill with barriers is implied when Yuta uses Kenjaku's technique to steal Gojo's body, and this scene starts to really explain not only Kenjaku's skill, but the insane potential of his abilities. After Yuta's domain barrier is broken, his cursed techniques are burned out. This burns out Kenjaku's body swap technique, and Yuta immediately loses control of Gojo's body as a result. However, Kenjaku is so skilled that he never displayed this problem. Against Yuki, his cursed technique burned out, but he was still using his body swap cursed technique to control Geto's body anyway. It's implied the reason Kenjaku can do this is through a combination of advanced barrier techniques. Essentially, he's able to keep his body swap technique running at all times, even when his cursed technique is burned out. Basically, Kenjaku is such a skilled sorcerer that he's bordering on breaking the rules of sorcery. His skill with barriers matters a lot when we begin talking about the potentials of his domain expansion. That'll be later in the video. So now, let's get into explaining his truly insane moveset along with some of the feats that he displays to see how they compare to Toji. One of Kenjaku's strongest abilities is cursed spirit manipulation. This is the power he gained from stealing Geto's body. He has access to countless cursed spirits that he can release to fight his opponents for him. His arsenal is genuinely insane, with some of his cursed spirits being ridiculously powerful on their own. Not only does Kenjaku have numerous curses of semi-grade 1 and higher, but he can make at least some of his cursed spirits even stronger by amping them with his own cursed energy. This was shown with low-level curses, so it's debatable on whether or not not, he can amp his higher level curses as well. Despite this, just amping his low level cursed spirits with his cursed energy, he was able to make them strong enough to decimate Chozo, someone on par with first grade sorcerers. This is insane because we see first grade sorcerers are often capable of beating weak special grade curses. Todo did this while he was just a second year, and even Megami I'm sorry. My fault. And even Megami beats a special grade 1v1. Sorry for that Megami slander. Meaning, essentially, Kenjaku can amp groups of low-level curses to make them on par with the effectiveness of a special grade curse. Imagine how strong a singular special grade curse would have to be to do this to Chozo. The strength of curse manipulation comes from the large arsenal of different abilities he can throw at his opponents. And once they get used to one ability, he can switch it up with another type of cursed spirit. What's truly dangerous is the insane number of curses he has at his disposal, with his special grades being very dangerous as well. His special grade Ganesha is stated to remove any obstacle. It entangles concepts with its curse technique and sends them flying. And Kuro is an absolute monster. Kuro can create swarms of cockroaches, all charged with cursed energy, that eat people in an instant. They're so strong that even Culling Games Yuta says that a swarm of them are a serious threat. He also has a cursed tool that could one-shot a large portion of the Jujutsu Kaisen verse. He hits a person with it once, and bugs immediately start eating the opponent. Kuro, while starving, was so strong that he nearly killed Culling Games Yuta in a 1v1. The fight was so close that Uro and Ryu legit thought Yuta was going to die. To be fair, Yuta wasn't using Rika, his curse techniques, or reverse curse technique to help in this fight until the very end, where he used reverse curse technique to hard counter Kuro, but it's very debatable on whether or not he was holding back his physical strength. That might have legit been no curse technique, no Rika, Culling Games Yuta using his full physical strength with cursed energy reinforcement, and still almost lost to a starving Kuro. Even after dying, the concept of Kuro revived as a cursed spirit and still had his cursed tool. Overall, he's extremely dangerous. On top of all of this, Kenjaku has a cursed technique, anti-gravity. He used this ability when he reacted to and survived Yuki's black hole attack, and reversing the technique, he crushes people into the ground. Also, using his maximum technique Uzumaki, he can create a powerful energy blast. He two-shots Yuki just using a mini Uzumaki, and after each Uzumaki, he's able to use the cursed technique of the spirit that was used up in the blast one time, which adds even more crazy abilities to his already insane arsenal. But Kenjaku's craziest feat of all was releasing 10 million cursed spirits in Shibuya. There's some debate over whether or not Kenjaku can control all 10 million cursed spirits due to his line of dialogue saying some of his contracts weren't made with sorcerers. Some fans believe his contracts were made with cursed spirits in the past, and they were included in the 10 million he released. The next line of dialogue, he says, those contracts became void when he took over Geto's body. He then goes on to release 10 million curses in the same animation style that's used for curse manipulation many other times throughout the series. Nearly every time he uses curse spirit manipulation, he summons the cursed spirits out of a black ooze, and it was the exact same thing here in the scene where he released 10 million curses. Furthermore, there's dialogue in the manga that heavily implies this was just curse spirit manipulation anyway. Yuta states that Kenjaku releasing 10 million curses was Kenjaku using curse manipulation on its maximum scale. To be completely honest, more things imply that these 10 million curses are Kenjaku's curses. They've never once attacked Kenjaku, they've only been shown to help Kenjaku, and he has surveillance cursed spirits as well that he can share vision with. I'll be using a middle ball interpretation for Toji, saying that he's equal in strength to Shinjuku Maki. So everything Maki performs, Toji is also capable of. Some fans believe that Maki and Toji are relative in speed to 20-finger Heian era Sukuna, but that's genuinely not the case whatsoever. Gojo burned through more than half of Sukuna's cursed energy. Sukuna had damaged his brain using reverse curse technique to replenish his curse technique, and by being hit by unlimited void. On top of this, Yuji hit Sukuna several times, lowering Sukuna's cursed energy output with each attack. There's also dialogue that implies damage in general lowers a character's cursed energy output, and on top of all of this, Maki snuck and stabbed Sukuna in the heart with Soul Split Katana, giving him soul damage directly, all before Maki and Sukuna even began fighting at all. Sukuna was at a fraction of his power when he fought Maki, and was still holding back on top of that. This is proven because the moment he gets serious, he speed blitzed Maki immediately, and you can make an argument that this version of Sukuna honestly might not have even been at 10-finger Sukuna level at the time. This is a debate on its own. If you think that the cursed fingers scale linearly, then that would mean Sukuna's below 10-finger Sukuna level. That's a debate on its own. Some people think the fingers don't scale linearly, but it's just worth stating. Also, Megami states that Toji seemed on par with the speed of 3-finger Sukuna, and the version of Sukuna Megami was referring to might not have even been going all out. All that being said, who's more likely to win between Toji and Kenjaku? Using the stronger interpretation of Inverted Spear of Heaven, then that means Toji has two very possible win conditions. Option 1 would be land the Inverted Spear of Heaven. This should, in theory, turn Kenjaku's body swap technique off, then Kenjaku just falls to the floor and loses, just like Yuta did when he took over Gojo's body, or chop Kenjaku's head off with Soul Split Katana. These win conditions are simple and possible, but it should be noted if all this Inverted Spear of Heaven does is cut through curse techniques, then maybe Kenjaku's curse technique wouldn't turn off by the Inverted Spear of Heaven. But to be fair to both characters, I'm going to leave that win condition in for Toji and say that if he lands Inverted Spear of Heaven, he would win. Now let's talk about the win conditions for Kenjaku and discuss which are more likely. The strongest version of Kenjaku is Shibuya Kenjaku with 10 million curses. First off, Kenjaku has all of Geto's memories. It's stated that he has them from taking over Geto's body, meaning he has all of the memories of Geto losing to Toji. He knows Toji has Inverted Spear of Heaven, he has memory of Toji using Soul Split Katana, and he knows that Toji's a Heavenly Restriction user. Kenjaku's best chance of victory is zoning Toji, meaning keeping a distance from Toji while overwhelming Toji with hordes of cursed spirits while he blasts him with Uzumaki's from above. He just needs to summon the right cursed spirits to give him enough time to summon more cursed spirits, and eventually he would form a horde to battle Toji. The catfish cursed spirit he used on Yuji is another perfect one to give Kenjaku time to summon more cursed spirits and start zoning Toji from afar with long range attacks. The special grades like Kuro and Ganesha can give Toji problems. If Kenjaku starts the fight with summoning them while he flies in the air on the back of a flying curse spirit, then continues summoning millions of curses, his victory is basically guaranteed. Toji is not defeating millions of curses plus Kenjaku by himself. Not to mention, Kuro has the ability to one-shot Toji if he lands a hit with his curse tool, and Kuro can create swarms of cockroaches himself to further add to the numbers. Furthermore, Ganesha removes concepts. When he used his ability, he was shown sending concepts flying. If Ganesha sends Toji flying, then he creates more time for Kenjaku to summon more curses. If he removes the concept of cursed tools and sends either Soul Split Katana or Inverted Spear of Heaven flying, debatably, without the cursed energy in the tools, Toji wouldn't be able to kill curses. However, it's debatable on how Ganesha's ability would interact with Inverted Spear of Heaven. It's possible Inverted Spear of Heaven would just cancel it out and only Soul Split Katana would get sent flying. Or if Ganesha sends Toji's cursed spirit flying, then that could be a problem as well. Essentially, every cursed spirit Toji fights gives Kenjaku time to summon more cursed spirits. With his millions of curses, he has a lot of different options for victory. Kenjaku has a lot more possible win conditions if you include his domain expansion, but due to there being many debatable concepts around his domain, I'm saving those at the end as a highball Kenjaku. The reality is, this is a very dangerous fight for both opponents, and they both have valid win conditions over each other, but considering the fact that Kenjaku has all of Geto's memories on Toji, and is a cautious fighter to begin with, it's slightly more likely that Kenjaku would win against Toji in a straight up battle. He simply just has a larger number of possible win conditions. If Toji creates a plan, he would be able to sneak and assassinate Kenjaku, but in a straight up fight, Kenjaku simply has more win conditions than Toji does, and him having knowledge on Geto's previous fight is a big advantage. Also, one of Toji's win conditions I mentioned earlier was using the Inverted Spear of Heaven to turn off Kenjaku's body swap technique, but something worth considering is there's a real possibility Toji wouldn't even know that Kenjaku is using a body swap technique. He might think this is just Geto and simply use Soul Split Katana, and if that's the case, the option of Ganesha sending his cursed spirit flying while Inverted Spear of Heaven is still within the cursed spirit is a real possibility. Also, if he just uses Soul Split Katana, Kenjaku could start the fight using his domain and crush the cursed spirit. In theory, Toji might lose the Inverted Spear of Heaven the rest of the fight if the cursed spirit dies. So some counter arguments would be, what if Toji just blitzes Kenjaku? The problem is, Kenjaku and Toji are more relative in feats than people realize. The statement of Toji being relative in speed to a potentially holding back 3-finger Sukuna, who might have had his cursed energy output affected by being damaged, is a real problem, especially since there's arguments that can be made from interview statements with Gege Hokage, that imply Jogo's somewhere around the 5 to 6 finger level, and Kenjaku scales above Jogo. That alone can create some problems, but we'll leave that to the side for now. Toji was debatably speed blitzed by Teen Gojo's red. This is debatable though, because Toji says he'd be able to handle it after he survived the first red, but he was undeniably speed blitzed by Teen Gojo's purple. Meanwhile, Kenjaku's reacting to Yuki's black hole technique at point blank range. So to say that Toji's fast enough to blitz Kenjaku, you have to say that Teen Gojo's purple, the first time he ever used it, was already faster than this black hole technique. I mean, it is possible, but that's a debate on its own, and it makes you realize that the reaction speed between Kenjaku and Toji really might be relative to one another. There's also a scene where Kenjaku is fighting special grade Yuki and Chozo at the same time, while he's being held in place by Yuki's Shikigami, potentially being amped by her curse technique, and he's still reacting to both of them at the same time while stuck in one spot. And the fact that he beat Chozo, Tengen, and special grade Yuki while they jumped him and had a plan is actually crazy. Furthermore, Maki states she doesn't think that they can defeat Kenjaku by conventional means. To be fair, she states this because she thinks Yuki is the same level of Yuta, and Maki isn't known to have the best analysis, but this is still an insane statement, especially considering that Maki and Toji are equal in physical stats. Also, Maki says we already knew this, so this implies Maki thought Kenjaku couldn't be defeated by conventional means even before Yuki, Chozo, and Tengen jumped him. Them failing even after jumping him just kind of further proves what they already thought. Finally, even when Kenjaku is snuck off guard by Shinjuku Yuta, he's still shown reacting to him last minute. There's a sound effect implied to be from Todo's new hand, implying Kenjaku actually reacted to Shinjuku Yuta while off guard. Last second, Todo teleports him again, then Yuta chops Kenjaku's head off after that. Kenjaku's feats are very impressive all throughout the series, to be honest. Toji would be able to sneak and assassinate Kenjaku, and he does have a couple possible win conditions, but in a straight up fight, Shibuya Kenjaku is simply more likely to win due to having more win conditions. Against Culling Games Kenjaku, who no longer has Kuro or Ganesha, then I'd say Toji is slightly more likely to win. So far, I've been using the middle ball version of Kenjaku, so now let's talk about the high ball version of Kenjaku and his domain expansion. The following win conditions for Kenjaku, I'm calling highball Kenjaku because it's debatable on whether or not Kenjaku can change the target of his domain to hit someone who doesn't have cursed energy. It should be noted that Dagon has a line of dialogue implying that he thinks he can target Toji in his domain even though he knows Toji doesn't have any cursed energy. Maybe Dagon was just wrong, but if Dagon does have the skill to change the target of his domain to hit someone without cursed energy, then Kenjaku almost 100% for sure can do the same thing. Using that interpretation, then honestly, the following win conditions might not all actually be highballs. They might just be what Kenjaku's actually capable of, but to be fair, I'm listing them as highballs anyway. Also, it should be noted that changing the target of your sure hit in your domain might actually just be the result of skill with barrier techniques. When Yuta changes his domain sure hit to only target Sukuna, Sukuna states this is possible due to Yuta using an advanced barrier technique. Since Kenjaku has some of the best barrier techniques in the entire series on par with Tengen, then he is almost for certain capable of doing the same thing, meaning in theory he can target just one person in his domain. Also, we see that Sukuna is able to target objects without cursed energy in his domain expansion. We don't know if this is a unique property of just Sukuna's domain, or if he's simply changing the target of Dismantle using a binding vow or a barrier technique. But again, if it's a barrier technique, there's an argument to be made that Kenjaku's capable of the same thing, and sometimes people debate that in general, open barrier domains can hit things that don't have cursed energy. But that's debatable, so let me know what you guys think. That being said, here are the highball Kenjaku win conditions. If Kenjaku can change the target of his open barrier domain to target people without cursed energy, then Toji might be cooked. Yuki was hit by Kenjaku's domain for just one instant, and Tengen breaks Kenjaku's domain immediately after. Despite this, the domain absolutely decimated her. Without Tengen, he might have been able to keep applying his domain until she died. This would do serious damage to Toji. If Kenjaku can use his open barrier domain plus curse spirit manipulation at the same time, then Toji is guaranteed cooked. He could target just Toji in his domain while crushing him, sending in swarms of cursed spirits to defeat Toji while he's being hit by the domain. It's implied that Sukuna is able to use domain expansion plus summon Maharaga at the same time. Again, this might be something just unique to Sukuna, but a highball interpretation is that extremely skilled incarnated sorcerers are able to use their domain and the curse technique of the body they've stolen at the same time. Using this highball concept, in theory, Kenjaku might be capable of the same thing. He might be capable of using domain expansion and curse manipulation at the the same time. Even though he's not exactly an incarnated sorcerer, he is stealing Geto's body. Being hit by Kenjaku's domain, plus fighting cursed spirits that are not being targeted by the domain, is just simply too much for Toji. If we use Shibuya Kenjaku, he might be able to hold Toji down in his domain, then seal him in the prison realm. He could destroy Toji's cursed spirit before he withdraws any cursed tools using his domain expansion. Then Toji has to fight Kenjaku and his swarms of cursed spirits at the same time without having any cursed tools to defend himself. If we use Idle Transfiguration Kenjaku, if he crushes Toji's cursed spirit with his domain or repels it with Ganesha, he might in theory be able to land Idle Transfiguration on Toji. Toji has some curse resistance, so I lean towards saying I don't think he could kill him in one shot if he's at full power, but if he's damaged by the domain expansion, and damage from fighting cursed spirits like Kuro, then a massively damaged Toji probably would die to Idle Transfiguration. But let me know what you guys think about that. A counter argument you can make is, how would Inverted Spear of Heaven interact with a domain expansion? I think if Toji can hit the barrier of a domain with the Inverted Spear of Heaven, it would probably turn the domain off. But against an open barrier, he's in trouble. Also, if a domain is a sure hit, set to hit things without cursed energy, then it's not something Toji can actually block, it would just hit him automatically. All that being said, Kenjaku versus Toji is a very dangerous battle for both opponents, and Toji does have win conditions, but Kenjaku is simply slightly more likely to win due to having a very vast arsenal and an insane amount of experience and skill in Jujutsu sorcery. That's everything I wanted to say. Thank you guys for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see ya on the next one.